Hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network, episode 59. This is our weekly music production, technology, and marketing podcast. Today, we're taking a look at some of the recent announcements, can't speak today, I guess, from NAMM, or NAMM, a live stream tool for musicians, and a lot more. Thanks to everyone who's joining us live in the chat. Let us know what you've been up to this week and if any gear has caught your eye. And I also want to give a quick shout out and welcome to all of the new listeners over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We've seen quite the rise in the last few weeks. So I just want to say hey, and we appreciate you hanging out with us. The video is available on Spotify and here on YouTube where we live stream. But we'll do our best to describe everything for you for those that are tuning in on the podcast apps. My name is Sunwarper, and with me today, who do I want to start with? Let's shake it up. Is Curtis, my Audionautic co-pilot. How are you today?
Wow, way to throw me a curveball just before we go live.
Well, I figured you threw us a curveball with this new microphone that's poking out. And by new, I mean it's been sitting there for 5 years, but it's new today as part of the plugin or the routing. So how are you?
Yeah, dude, it's cool. I'm good. It's been mental. It's been good. But it's been a lovely couple of days of sound design. That's been what I've been up to. I've taken 4 tracks, so kick, snare, and then 2 sets of hats, and that's my limit. And it's been a case of how big and how massive can I make that, and that's been so using reverbs and delays and saturations and all that and panning and everything. Just how big can I make those 4 tracks, and that's been wonderful because you know me, I'm a bit of a maximalist, so it's nice to
a bit. Yes. Nice. What was that one track with 83 different stems on it?
Stems, yeah, 83 stems.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And I don't want to go back to that, so I have to learn. Everything's a lesson. So yeah, that's been my week thus far. I'm very happy about that. So I'm quite happy to go. So yeah, that's me. That's what I've been up to. Hello to everyone in the chat. It's lovely to see everyone here. J-Bell, yeah, I'm going to talk. We'll have a look at that next week. You sent that in a bit late. You sent me that yesterday. And we get everything done because we were organized this week, somewhat, weren't we? We were very organized.
We were.
More organized than most. But that's me. What about you, bro?
Let's see. I ordered my new computer. It's a 14-inch MacBook Pro with 32 gigs of RAM, the M2, and it's the slightly higher CPU and GPU. It's like a 12 and 19 instead of the 10 and something. So it's coming Monday, it said. So I'm very excited to get it. But now I have to figure out all the backing up of this computer, get like a USB hub that's a USB-C to plug into that thing and all that stuff. So yeah, it'll be fun. Got to re-download Logic Pro, all of my plugins. So I'm like, oh, that's not going to be fun. It's worth it in the long run, but it won't be fun. But in better news, last week, I think it was Thursday or Friday, I saw Return of the King in theaters. And it was the extended cut.
How long was
that? 4 hours in a movie theater. But it was awesome. It was really cool. My theater right here, they've been showing a lot of like classic movies and older movies. I mean, I guess it's classic now. It's 20 years old or something. But next up, they're showing, I think in a week or two, Return of the Jedi. So they're doing a lot of returns for some reason. But yeah, so I was like, the day tickets went on sale. I was like swiping those up.
There you go. That's the one.
Yeah.
That is the one. I'd like to see that. I wouldn't mind a little bit of sitting.
You should check because it's, I think, the 40th anniversary. So a lot of places are showing it. I don't know if it's just the US, but check if like theaters near you are doing it. And anybody in the chat, it's like a thing. It's not just this theater. The Return of the King was also, it's like its 28-year anniversary. So they were showing it in a bunch of movie theaters and stuff.
28 years since Return of the King.
20 years since Return of the King. 40, I believe, since Return of the Jedi.
Jesus.
Howard might be able to let us know, but I should introduce our friend and colleague, Eon Lake. How are you?
Hello. I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
We're good, man. What you been up to?
I haven't been up to much, actually. I've been keeping my head down. Little bit of live practice, and the rest of the time, I'm just messing around making noises. And it's a conscious decision. I've got a couple of tracks to finish, but I feel like just experimenting with sound and making textures and so on and doing something with them later.
Okay. Not
I'm
bad.
happy with that. It's kind of like sitting back, taking a break, you know?
Like building a library too of sounds that you could either sample or chop up or something like that.
Yeah, probably audio files that can then be sampled and chopped and whatnot.
Yeah.
Maybe into an SP404.
I was gonna say it, but you beat me to it.
Most certainly, yeah.
Yes.
I do
Excellent.
get, as the week goes on, I am getting more and more FOMO for not having an SP404.
You're the only one in this video that doesn't have one.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a hell of a lot for the money. It really is. I must admit.
I think about
And
it.
they keep updating it like crazy. We're not sponsored at all, but it is pretty crazy the updates they throw into it. So yeah.
Oh, maybe. Maybe there's something going to happen when, you know, when I can afford to pay my taxes, and then maybe after that, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So yeah, we have quite the show this week. Let us know what you guys in the chat have been doing. We're going to get on with the show. We'd love to know what you've been doing. J Bell apparently, John Wick apparently is another intellectual quest on which we.
When did that first one come out? How many years has it been? Because this is the fourth one just came out, I think.
I feel like it's every other year.
I
feel like it's every
last
year.
one with Lance Reddick. God rest his soul, legend.
Yeah, I know that was terrible to hear. He was,
Love that guy.
yeah,
Great actor.
He was.
yeah, and he was always great in Destiny, the game, Destiny 1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick on the SP404, I have to share it. Survey channel SP404 OG. Ride it till it dies. He added the thing there.
Yeah. For those, if you could do me a solid, guys, in the chat, let me know what you think of the new microphone. Sunwarper is completely right. I've had a Rode NTG2 sitting in my sound bag for the last 5 years, and I've never thought about bringing it on the show. And then I've been using my crappy condenser for the year that we've been doing this. And
if you recall the dubstep noises that often emanate from Curtis's side of the internet of this chat, it doesn't sound like it's happening right now. So I think we fixed it. But it seems like Curtis doesn't believe me that his audio is better. So chat, help me out here. Convince him that it is better. And Survey Channel's already on it. He says, nice mic.
Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. He needs to be. He needs to believe.
I need to believe.
Curtis needs to believe. What were you saying, Jan Lake?
It sounds good. It's quite directional though, so you probably want to get close.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem with Curtis. 1 minute he's here, 1 minute.
I'm all over the place.
Iron Maiden to put him in.
Or just like attach the camera to, or the microphone to you, so when you move, it moves with you, you know?
Like a little lapel or something like that. That's what we need.
But anyways, let's get to the gear. I think that's what we've all been waiting for.
We've got, it's obviously we're in NAMM season. That's awesome. NAMM's coming to Berlin, I think, next weekend or the weekend. Oh no, it's happening in May. It's just finished. It's wrapped up his weekend. There was Fun and Venus Theory where he was going. They've done that there. But yeah, lots of new gear. We're going to start with, I believe, the Polyend Tracker was the first thing in our document for this week. The Mini, yes.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen so that we can get this up and then we can see what's going on. So yeah, this is the Tracker Mini.
It's an evolved Game Boy.
It is an evolved Game Boy, and I kind of like that.
Bendu's in the chat. He says, "Hi, folks. What's up, Bendu? How you doing? Has anything from NAMM caught your eye?"
This is one that is quite. I don't know about you guys on the screen, but this is quite a lot for me. So I'm like,
scroll down. I'm lost in that, man. I'm like, man, you can go everywhere with that thing. It looks really cool. It loses some of the like buttons and stuff, obviously, because they're doing a mini thing. But they say that it's lighter, obviously smaller, definitely, obviously, but more powerful than its predecessor. Stereo sample playback, onboard microphone, and onboard battery. Lower latency and a faster CPU, and it's $699 US for pre-order with shipping on July 12th, 2023.
Which means over on this side of the pond, we should get it probably late 2023, early 2024.
I don't know. I don't know where they're based, so I can't say. But I mean, it's a tracker. So trackers are their whole own kind of music making thing. Very cool though. Something I've really wanted to get into but have not yet. But it looks like it's really fun to use. I see a lot of cool sounds people are making on it, and they actually have on this page that Curtis is sharing several albums that were made, I guess, exclusively with the tracker. I'm assuming the original tracker, not the mini, but The look of it kind of reminds me of a larger, what's that? Is the M8? There's another small tracker. Yeah, like you can probably help me out with that or chat, but there's that tiny tracker that looks like a Game Boy with just a couple buttons on it. I think it's the M8, but it's like a slightly larger version of that. But yeah, does anybody have a tracker in the chat or is looking to get this one? It looks pretty awesome. Oh, Eon Lake, there we go. Let me get to Eon Lake. Do tell, Eon Lake.
I've got a tracker.
There we go. And
the original one. The original one with the jog wheel. I don't really use it. I can't find anything wrong with it. I like the fact it has got a mini SD slot, and I'm assuming this new one has as well. It's very expandable, really easy to get sounds on it. Put them on a card, stuff the card in it, you're done. It's quite immediate. Whether or not you gel with a tracker is kind of a person-to-person thing. That whole sort of, it's a little bit, that step, play that sound, this volume, this pan, it's nothing wrong with it, and yet I don't use it a lot. It's one of those things that I thought this would be brilliant for when you're going away. You can have quite a sample library on it. It's got a fair amount of, potential. You could do, a rough song on it, no problem. But yet somehow I find myself not using it much. And, I could take something else instead.
Would you say the tracker workflow doesn't click for you, or is it just the tracker itself?
Maybe it's the workflow. I don't know. I mean, I like the fact they got the rows of the buttons underneath, so you don't have to actually scroll through the steps and then make an event. You can select them and touch something. So it is quite quick on the old one with all the buttons on. I guess there'll be a lot more fiddling around on the small one, but I don't know. I don't dislike the tracker workflow particularly, and you can have it go horizontally or vertically. They did a software update that enabled horizontal for people who just really wanted to turn their heads on the side, but I don't know. It's just not really grabbed me.
Yeah,
That's interesting. What do you think?
You were going to say something. What were you going to say?
Well, I mean, I don't have the original Polyend. I don't have the original tracker, and that was a monetary thing. But this, in the same vein of wanting to firstly switch up my workflow and try something new, and then also, oh hey Steve, and then I mean Steve obviously likes the Polyend Tracker Mini, didn't you? Yeah, but something to change up my workflow and something that I could just take with me when I travel. To just maybe do something on the train or the plane or whatever, that looks like a very nice way forward. I don't know if it would replace like a DAW, but definitely for sampling and mangling and trying something different. Like I'd be down for something like that. I've got it here. If you can, I found an image of the handheldness without the flashy epilepticness. That is like. That's what you want. You want something in your hand that you can just mangle something with. And
let me look up what that other one is, because I want to just to show.
Yeah, I was thinking, even if you don't write songs on it, you could at least do sound design on it by mangling stuff and bouncing it and mangling it and bouncing it, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Look at that. Just for the sake of other portable tracker options, Curtis, I'm going to send you on WhatsApp. It's the Dirty Wave M8. And then while you open that up, I'm going to share a couple of the chat. So Survey Channel says he wants this in a big way, but he says, I don't know much about using them at the moment. Yeah, I mean, I've never used a tracker. They seem really cool, though. He also says it seems a very technical way to make music, so to speak. It does. But I mean, I believe Aphex Twin used a tracker for a lot of stuff, or at least some things. I recall some stuff from one album. He like shared some stuff, and it was.
He also makes his own instruments.
Yeah, well, he is Aphex Twin. Bendu also says that no NAMM less for me. The IntelliGel semi-modular looks nice, but money. I mean, that's all of NAMM.
Yeah.
And also Hydro Fighter, one of our patrons, is in the chat. He says, "Hey guys, what's going on, Hydro Fighter? How are you?" And J Bell would love if Stevie would randomly start attacking that mic. No. Don't say that, because we need this mic. We don't need to go back. We're going forwards only.
Checking it out, thinking, what's going on here?
It is, yeah. Stevie's the best of boys. He's not an aggressive human being unless he's hungry. So, and I fed him just before we came on the show, so he's all right for now.
Did you get that other tracker pulled up?
Yes, it's here. I mean, it's if I share,
you're still sharing. I just pulled it off while you switch over. There we go. Yeah. So this is even smaller, I believe. This thing's like very tiny, and it's just that there's like just a couple buttons to it. Maybe go to the start of it, but that's it right there. Yeah, it's just a couple little buttons, very small screen, but look at how that's it. It's very tiny, even more portable than that. But I mean, just to show there's options, and I'm this one might be a little cheaper too, but it also depends. Like, do you want something that small compared to like the Polyend Tracker, where it's a little bigger, it's a little beefier, there's a little more room to move, and there's more buttons definitely on the Polyend. But yeah, just
scarily like coding music.
Yeah, I mean that's tracking for you. That's kind of what it does.
It's reminiscent of like the first DAWs. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was the MPC where it went down, and you had to you literally had to code in if you wanted if you wanted a filter sweep or something like that, or if you wanted to apply something, you had to literally type it in.
Well, I think like Survey Channel says, those trackers were like for old PCs. He says old PC based trackers like the Amiga. That's I think when trackers came to be, because you could do it, and then it became a whole thing with sampling in them and stuff like that. And also David is in the chat. Hey David, how are you? What's going on? Have you seen anything from NAMM that's caught your eye?
We'd like to see. I mean, these are, again, if that's what you want to do, like, I mean, David, I know, doesn't use a DAW. He uses everything hardware. Yeah. So this might be something that you're interested in, David. I don't know. But I don't know, mixing up workflow, trying something new, getting a new spin on things, a new perspective, it's never a bad thing. I would love to have one of those OP1s, but I can never afford one of those for now. So this might be another way of going for now, unless you want to give me your OP1.
No, thanks.
Oh, okay.
Kind offer.
I'll trade you my launch pad. How's that?
Seems fair. Seems
you
fair.
Can launch yourself.
So yeah, that's very much what's going on there with the Polyend Tracker. Let us know in the comments what you think about that, whether that's something you want to go for. It's so lovely to see so many people here today. Thank you ever so much for joining us. We have Bendu, we have Hydrofighter, we have David, we have Shady Ridge in the chat as well. And these people are our patrons. We have non-patrons in there, but we also have our patrons in there as well. And thank you ever so much for seeing you. I missed you on Sunday. I had to work, I'm afraid, but it was apparently you guys had a lovely star stream.
We just caned you for a good hour.
Yeah,
we talked about your microphone, actually. No, actually, what Starstream was a lot of fun. We actually did a bit of a preview of what we were covering because we were so organized this week for the docket for ADSN. We actually talked a bit and got some of the patrons' points of views on it, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, Starstream is our Patreon exclusive hangout that we do once a month for now, soon to be twice a month, and it's a lot of fun. But carry on, Curtis. I didn't want to steal your thunder. It just Eon Lake and I were there, so I wanted to relay what we were doing that day. And like David says in the chat, he says, great chat on Sunday. Yeah, we appreciated hanging out with you, David. It was a lot of fun talking the gear, and we were talking about his hardware setup as well.
Well, that's cool. That's what we need. And the thunder is ours, so there's no thunder to be stolen. I think the point we're trying to make is that we really appreciate you patrons, and if you like what we do, we'd really like you to consider becoming a patron yourself, because we are currently in the middle of doing like a little unofficial mini drive, so to speak. Right now, we are bringing the stream to you through StreamYard, and you can see the duck in the corner, which is just here. Hi.
StreamYard Lake.
Which is the StreamYard, yeah, which is the free version of StreamYard, right? Which means that we stream at a certain bandwidth and we stream at 720p. We have one camera and we can flip between them, and it's great and it's lovely. But we would like to be able to get the pro version because we can stream in full HD 1080p. We can have a second camera, which is the most important thing.
Which means that we can have another camera setup. Like I can have this set up over me, this little guy, and I can share like how I use Koala or the SP, or Curtis could show his Launchpad or something like that, and we can do deep dives, tutorials, explainers, all kind of things like that.
Yeah. And that's this kind of what we got from our patrons, that we got this idea that, more kind of like stuff that we do in the studio, and more kind of, I think Sumwalper coined it really nicely in our meeting on Monday, technique of the week. I love that. I love that. Absolutely love it. And we'd like to do this stuff, and we have the ability, but we just need certain tools in our favor in order to make it happen, a thing live. So if you like what we do, pledges start at $2. And even if you don't want to become a patron, there's our PayPal in the description box to make a one-time donation. We're trying to hit that. I think it's $249 or something like that.
Yeah, $240 or $250. Yeah,
$240.
Something like that.
If you like what we do and you want to see more, that's a great way to do it. All the money that we make that we have here goes back into what we do here, because we want to make this as big and as great and as awesome as we can. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we're currently halfway there. So like Curtis was saying, if you want to join the Patreon, you also get an exclusive Twitter and Discord channel where we talk about all kinds of music stuff. You can also come on this show if you join the Patreon. And like we mentioned, we have the monthly Starstream Hangouts. There's a ton of stuff. Check out the Patreon. It's in the link in the description if you want to see all the stuff you get for it. And also, as Curtis said, if you'd like to just help us get that StreamYard Pro, you can head to the PayPal. It's also in the description.
Yeah. And I promise I will never use this mic.
I was going to mention, I love how you just have a second mic, just like, hey, you're just throwing it around.
SM58.
He went from 1 to now 2. So,
This is a unidirectional GS56S. I have no idea what it is. I got it from
Unidirectional.
It's unidirectional. I got it from my sister's karaoke when she was like 5 years old, and I've kept it. So there you go, Hannah. This one for you.
Want that?
It's a good little mic.
So you can get the dubstep wobbles while live, obviously, so we can have live music while we're going.
You combine it with this guy. The TC Helicon C1, which is what do you call it? It's like a auto tune pedal, and you get some really wacky sounds. Yeah, that's what it's all about. But yeah, this is a piece of shit, but it's fun. So yeah.
Well, anyways, we appreciate everyone. Obviously, just hanging out with us on these chats is more than enough. But if you'd like to help us out, check out those links we mentioned. But now we're going to get back to some gear, and this is one that Curtis put in there, the Expressive E Osmose, I believe it's called, correct?
Yeah, the Expressive E Osmose. This is something special.
He's really amped up about it. If he puts something in the docket a week before we actually need it, he's amped up about it. So I really want him to talk about it.
It's going to be on his Christmas list for sure if he does that.
Straight out the bat, it's €1,700. It's expensive. It's a big piece of gear, but I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to share my screen. There's a couple of things. I'm going to share my screen, and you can see what's going on. Just by the way, Siblings 2 by Hydrofire is also a sick release. So, but yes. Okay, Sunwalker, if you could add that to the stream.
I've got it.
Thank you. This is the Expressive E, and this is the video that we got from Loop Hop. Sadly, Expressive E didn't send us a hardware piece for us to check out. We're not quite there yet.
Lost somehow.
Got lost in the post.
Well, they didn't know whether to send it to Czech, US, or England, so they just chose not to. I get it. It's all right.
Okay, it's fine. This is an MPE MIDI and synthesizer. There's inbuilt sounds, and it acts as a MIDI controller as well. But it is a very diverse, dynamic keyboard in the sense that we've got pressure, aftertouch, and left and right motion on the keys for pitch bending, and slides, as well as the onboard sounds. So, for example, this is from Loop Pop. I'm just going to play this little bit for you.
Starting with a light touch can generate a sound, and as you increasingly apply more pressure, the sound's timbre can morph and evolve based on how it was programmed. What's more important is that pressure detection, as well as other expression controls, are all polyphonic. So not only do your fingers replace envelopes here, each key and finger can be doing its own thing.
I just have to share Curtis's excitement there.
Which
Hold
adds
on.
even more to the human
Wait
feel of
for it.
playing this instrument. Osmose has
After
one
that.
more dimension of per key control built into the hardware, left and right motion for each key. Can send pitch bend up and down
Look at that.
as you move the key a few millimeters left and right. Now,
That's-
while the main advantage Osmose has compared to
Yeah.
other expressive or
I'll leave it there for now. I'll leave it there for now. This that's just a small, very small piece, and we obviously don't have time or the capacity to watch Luke Pop's entire video.
Curtis,
But-
put a link to that video in the description because that definitely seems like it's worth checking out if you want more gear. Which Survey Channel, just don't click the link. Don't click the link. And David says, "Whoa, Osmose is really special regarding expression. Sound engine is interesting." Yeah, definitely. It seems like Curtis definitely echoes that sentiment.
Very much. I think it was described as the biggest leap forward for expressive piano since the harpsichord was replaced by the piano, which is a big statement to make. If you think about kind of how Baroque and post-Baroque and Romantic classical music was made, the idea that you can play a chord, change your ADSR through your fingers at will, and then move it with the expression of what you're doing left and right with pitch bending and stuff like that. As someone who uses a lot of pitch bending, just using the pitch wheel, I want it. I would sell all my gear and just have that as a MIDI keyboard, and I would be very happy with that. That's insane. I don't know if you can tell, I'm quite excited by that.
I never would have guessed.
You cover it well.
Thank you. A stoic man of little expression, as you might say. The down part is the software. David, I'd like to know what you mean, if you can expand on that.
Like MPE control and having an interface with doors, maybe. I don't know. They're all beginning to support it now. MPE controllers.
Yeah, like you buying this?
Well, when you mentioned it, and I was aware of it already, I thought I'm not that taken by MPE. I've got a LightPad block that I've experimented with for a while, and it just didn't feel all that natural to me to be sort of pushing and sliding and stuff. It's like, yeah, it works, but is it something I want to be doing? I don't know. So I was a little bit skeptical about this, but just having looked at that, it's like, ooh, that is quite good. It's a lot of articulation, and maybe you don't want to use it all the time. Maybe you would just be playing like normal, but you hit a certain note and you want a bit of vibrato on that note, and you can do it. It's a little counterintuitive at first, but I'm sure you get used to it. Yeah, the idea really grew on me watching that and hearing the sounds. Definitely interested. Yeah.
1700.
It half convinced
It's 1700.
1700 euro.
Hold on, I want to see something because
Which is cheaper than all of those high-end synthesizers that we were advertising at the beginning.
the
of the year.
Oberheim.
The Oberheim, yeah.
I want to check. Just give me 1 second.
I do feel like it'd be one of those that you buy and you would never need another MIDI keyboard. Like it's.
What I liked about it was the polyphonic aftertouch and what you can do with that if it's related to speed of oscillators and things like that. The fact that they can all be different, and that had a really interesting effect.
1800 in the US. I was just looking because it reminds me a bit. I mean, I don't have any of these, and I've never really used these sort of expressive things synth-wise, but it reminds me a bit of this Rolly Seaboard Rise.
Okay.
And I just looked up, that price is 1400, and this, as David says, is 1800 in the US. I think this might do more. Like I said, I don't know. Don't quote me. If anyone in the chat can correct me, I've never used these, but it seems like maybe it does more than Seaboard Rise, but I'm not sure. David also said the down part. No, it does. I think it has sounds that you get like on the computer to use, like,
yeah, I think they use the Equator synth, which
yeah.
is their MPE.
Yeah, and he says about it, the down part is the software. He says it's very hard to edit. I believe that's Egen matrix is way different to work with, And then J Bell says 1,700 euro for a fancy MIDI controller. Hell no. I get the feeling, J Bell, from other comments, you're not the biggest fan of a lot of hardware. I saw that he also said about the tracker that an app could do it. And I mean, it's a totally valid point. I think what some people would argue, somewhat myself included, is having dedicated pieces of hardware. This isn't exactly that. It kind of is, but dedicated pieces of hardware make at least my brain think differently compared to using a small phone app or something in a DAW where you just move it with the mouse. That's kind of the thing. It's not for everybody. It's not worth it for some people, but yeah, just a interesting thing. But
I suppose it's partly justified by the fact that it is a synthesizer as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the MIDI keyboard, but yeah.
I think it's one of the, maybe it's one of those things that you would use for a month and maybe get bored of. I don't know, but it's I really feel like it's a. I mean, we do a lot of gear here. If you guys haven't noticed that we do a lot of gear on this channel, we're very gear centered, and this is the first time I think in a long time that I've looked at something and gone, I need that in my library.
I'm on to him. No, it's always good to have different perspectives. I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying I appreciate that you have the different perspective, but I also want to present that there is another perspective of people who do get excited about these things. David says it's a big deal for those that like key interface.
That's fair. And foot massages. Yeah.
See, the thing I wasn't so keen with when I first messed around with MPE was the types of sounds that use MPE in a sense they're very sort of digital synth sounds that I don't really like. However, I mean, listening to that example, I mean, it was quite like gamelan bells, and it was a bit more like an organic sample and manipulating that, and that kind of changes my opinion a bit. If it were just the same old sort of digital sounds that make you sound like, I don't really want to name an artist or something, but you know, some real keyboard cheese, then you know, it's like, well, I don't really care about the control if the sound is crap. But they seem to be addressing that point quite well with that product.
Well, I think as a guitarist primarily, and maybe some more you can weigh in on this one as well. But like I always go, I use synthesizers and stuff, but when it comes to the guitar, I'll always come back to the actual guitar, and I might edit that guitar, but it's always down to the expression and the playing of the guitar. Because plucking a string is one thing, but pitch bends and hammer-ons and pull-offs and all that, slides, etc. These are things that you can only really achieve on an actual guitar. MIDI iterations and MIDI engines that do guitar just don't sound quite right. But I imagine if you're running something like that through the through the Expressive E, sorry.
All these E's,
man, not even the fun ones, that they can... I imagine that could bring a lot of differentiation to your playing, essentially. That's the way I see it as well. You can have those pitch bends, you can have those slides, which sound a bit more natural and less MIDI bending. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a thought.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, like J-Bell says here, but if it is hardware, I'd not want it to be like a MIDI controller and depend on VST sounds. So from Eon Lake's saying, it kind of sounds like it has built-in stuff as well. Is that correct, Curtis? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's by VST sounds, J-Bell, do you mean more like the sounds that are built in, or instead of like putting in samples or something? Because I can kind of see that putting in like layers of samples may give a more authentic guitar sound if you're sliding between different velocity levels or something like that. For me personally, I mean, none of this is ever really seeing these like MPEs and all these expressive things. I understand the excitement, but it doesn't get me excited. I mean, I don't really see it for me personally. Like, I don't have much use for that. When I need like expression on synths and stuff, I do automation, or I do like LFOs and things like that. And if I need to really express, I'll use the guitar, because that's just how I speak. And kind of like what David said here, it's like, for me, I really don't want to invest the time at the moment to learn it. It takes a while to master, apparently. And it's like, then you got to do another, like, learn something else. And so, that's just for me. David also says many guitarists will love this, is my belief. I'll shut up now. But he added one more thing. It does physical modeling great, very plucky and percussive. Yeah, so I'm a guitarist. I don't get jazzed up about it. I see it. I see why it would be exciting. I don't know. For some reason, it doesn't grab me, and it seems like another thing to learn. And then J Bell asked, can you connect it to a PA system without a laptop? And David answered that yes, you can. So yeah, it does have its own built-in sounds. It sounds like it's not going just like using it with a contact player or something like that through your laptop.
It's nice to see people in the chat talking with each other and answering questions with each other. I love that.
Yeah, we appreciate all you guys being here. But yeah, and it sounds like J Bell may have turned around a little. He said, okay, in that case, that's cool. All
right.
Look at that live conversion.
That's quicker than Lucifer himself. That's awesome. So yeah, we'll go halvesies, J Bell. It'll be fine. So yeah, that is the Expressive E Osmose. Let us know what you think. I mean, chat's been very alive with that one. What is next up?
We got good old Donner.
Good old Donner.
The D1 drum machine. So we went from something very expensive to something that's much more budget and beginner friendly.
Okay.
So
let me bring it up.
Yeah.
Just go from that video that you sent.
So this is the Donner D1 drum machine, and before you see it or anything, $250. It's a 12-channel real-time recording and can switch between function keys to create drum patterns, RGB velocity-sensitive pads, 5 knobs, and ships with some factory content from Loop Masters. Now let's take a look at it.
Let's have a look at this. So
that's just skip a little bit because there's a few ads to it.
Yeah, sure.
That's it.
Yeah, we bring this prototype to NAMM this year, and it's the D1
below
is
it,
a 12
you can
channel
see,
sample machine.
Below it, you'll see their. Hold on, I'm trying to mute the audio. That's their. I think it's the 303 clone that they make. That's about $150. So they're very budget friendly. This is just a prototype. We just wanted to show it real quick so you can get an idea of it. It's a sample-based drum machine for $250. So nothing groundbreaking or revolutionary, but a pretty cool price for what it does. Let's see. So it's full-size MIDI in and out, headphone output, auxiliary, so you can send in audio to sample. It releases at the end of May, and the price they say is around $250. So yeah.
Right. I mean, as a nifty little drum machine, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
With for $250, Eon Lake, are you down? You got a load of samplers and stuff in there.
It's not something I desperately need, but I do like a reasonably priced groove box, especially if there's sampling capability, because then at least it can sound like anything, right? Where other methods of making sound can be a bit one trick. Sampling is best of all worlds, really, isn't it? I mean, this looks like something to compete with. What's the cheap Electron box? Is it a model?
Oh man, what are those called? I'm blanking on the name. I know what you're talking about though. The small little like white one.
It's kind of like their version of that, and I imagine a fair bit cheaper.
You mean the Volca sample?
No, that's Korg. It's Model Cycles and Model Sample. Yeah, and then Bendu put it in the chat right when it dinged on my head. Yeah, Model Sample.
Yeah, bit like that. I don't know what they go for though. I imagine this is going to be cheaper.
I think they might be 300. I think I can Google it. So yeah, Curtis, what do you think about it?
I for 250, I was speaking to a friend of mine who was looking into getting a drum machine, and that would be a good drum machine to get if you're in the market for something that's relatively cheap. I echo a bit of what Eon Lake was saying. Get a sampler. You could do so much more with it. The idea of putting in your own samples, mangling, moving things around, and turning, say, into a kick drum for the sake of it, like that's for me, that's the fun of it. And if you need a box where you're going to play live or busk or whatever, and you just need a drum pad and you just need to go, great. If you're in the studio and you want to mangle stuff and make something a bit original, sampler. That's what I would say.
This is a sampler though.
Oh, well then my apologies.
It's a drum machine, but it's a 12-channel. It has sampling functionality for each channel. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. You could just throw in drum sounds. You could throw in sample sounds. I'm not sure how much mangling capability you have. Again, we're just showing this real quick. If you guys want us to do a deeper look into it, we can cover it in another episode. It's just, I like covering, since we cover a lot of these expensive things, it's nice to show some of these lower end, beginner, budget friendly, whatever you want to call it. I mean, after this, I'll be making a beat with a little pocket operator. It's not a calculator. It's a pocket operator. So it's fun to do that. And it's nice to see what you can kind of get with these lower priced models. And Eon, like, just to carry back to the model sample, it's 400, at least according to Google, US dollars.
There you go. And I suppose this is an alternative to the Polyend as well, in a way. It depends what you want to do with it. Maybe
I mean, it's not a tracker, but it might be a little easier to get into if you're used to using drum machines or something to go to samplers like that. And yes, Survey Channel, I do like covering samplers. It's true.
You've got to type. You've got to type.
Yeah.
It's your second love in life after.
Well, I just feel like samplers are like one of the most ultimate instruments. You can make music with them. You can like mangle sounds. You can sound design with it. It's crazy. Like, you can take a single sound and create so many things from it. Like, I was showing Curtis, I stem split one of his songs and just like created samples out of little, like, just the chords of this song and made this like weird trippy sound out of it. So yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be a good video. That So yeah, it looks. I mean, it's nice. Like I said, like I've got the Volca sampler over there. I mean, behind the computer, and
it's not real if you don't show it.
It's all the way over there.
Oh,
I'll get next week.
We don't want you moving from your microphone. So fair enough.
I can show you the old microphone.
No.
And that's the fun of it, putting your own samples in, mangling, making something new and original. We were talking about originality a couple of weeks ago in the round robin, and the notion of making your own drum kits and stuff. It's something that is like, it's more fun. I think it's kind of what gives IDM down tempo its name. It's kind of making those original sounds, as opposed to just taking something directly from Splice or whatever, says the guy who takes stuff directly from Splice, by the way, just saying. Yeah, so it looks cool. Be interesting. $249, released at the end of May. Can't really complain about that one. Sounds good.
Yeah, definitely. J Bell says over there where he stores the books, I lend him to read.
Yeah. There's over there. That's actually on the other
to not read. To not read.
To not read.
It's like, does he sample or does he read?
One
choose
time.
Sampling first.
Maybe he's been sampling the books by mistake.
That's what he closes them. Yeah, rips them or something. Yeah, you may not be getting them back in the same condition, J Bell.
He's really holding on to that. He lent me a book about a year and a half ago, and I couldn't get into it. I just couldn't. I couldn't. And yeah.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I forgive you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that.
I got you.
I don't.
J-Bell, if you want to give me that book back, I'll give it another try. We'll give it a whirl. Third time's a charm. Let's put it that way.
There you
go. So yeah. And that is the Donna. We've still got two more pieces. We've got one more piece of news and we've got one PSA. So let's move on. It's a little bit different. This is something that I found. We discussed this in the reason I brought this up is because we discussed this in the very, very early days of Audionautic, back when it was.
Oh, I remember that now. Yeah.
But I think this is when we were when we had those first interviews with like Spectre and Survey Channel and stuff like that. We were talking about Elk Audio and stuff like that. And it has now come to fruition. It's now come to be.
I recall us covering one of these streaming things in an early ADSN as well. Spoiler alert, this is a live streaming low latency program, website, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but it looks like it's going in beta. Is that correct, Curtis? This one you brought.
Completely. Yeah, so basically this is a fancy Zoom. That's basically the best way to describe it.
It's a musician Zoom.
a musician Zoom, you can get up to 5 people in the room itself, and it's very, very, very low latency, which is obviously what you need when you're communicating across the interwebs. You have a mixer on board, so there's someone in control of the situation. So there's one guy one guy or gal in a control, and you've got 4 people, and you can like write stuff together. You can just jam together. You can communicate. For someone like myself who teaches, you can do online lessons and stuff like that with relatively low latency, which is really nice. And it bypasses the sound card, which is the most important thing. When some of the live stream stuff that we have, some of the problems that I don't know about you guys, some of the problems that I've encountered is that if I've got sound coming out of Ableton without using something like Restream or what's the thing, Loopback you guys use for that? Yeah. Like we can have some issues with sound and with that kind of thing and quality of sound, but this kind of bypasses everything. Looks like a really nice way. It looks like it was born out of the pandemic, but I mean, they're keeping it going, which is nice.
Real quick, FCC, one of our patrons, is in the chat. What's going on, FCC? Yeah, also Label Mate. Awesome new album. If you missed last week's episode, we covered a few of the songs off of his new album, Analogs of Traces. You can check it out at the Bandcamp link in our description or watch the previous episode. It's all in a podcast playlist here on YouTube and also on all of the podcast sites. But yeah, this looks awesome. I mean, we've been talking for a while. Let me switch back to us. We've been talking for a while about doing some sort of like jam thing, and we were doing a thing. An early iteration of our Starstream Hangouts was the 3 of us making collab tracks we'd send each other stems and then we'd do it on our own and then kind of meet up and discuss ways we'd want to change it, who wants to do the next step. I mean, imagine this if we were able to just do it live, right? Like how we do this show, but making music. And like Curtis and I do live streams where we make music. Imagine if we could communicate and make music together in these.
Dream. It's the dream.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically since day one. That's what we've been kind of holding out for.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something that we need to go for.
Yeah. And so this is it an open beta? Can anyone join it?
It is. Yeah. So it's only on Mac at the moment. It's only on Mac. And there's no financial credentials acquired. You can do it. It's free. It is in beta, whatever. But
pronounce it how you want, man. Don't worry.
Potato.
It is in potato. Yeah.
It's in potato right now, and so obviously there's going to be some stuff, and we talked about what beta is before, but that's cool. That's a nice little.
Maybe we can try and check it out and do it live. Chat, let us know if you want to see us try to. If you want to see us try to make something, I think only Eon Lake and I might have Macs, but no, you have a Mac, right?
At work, I've got a MacBook Air and I've got a Mac Mini being installed. So maybe it's something that we could also do.
Survey Channel is not happy about the Mac only. Join us. Get Logic. No, I'm just kidding. But maybe that's something we do. Chat, let us know if you want to see, if you would like us to check it out and see how it works, if we can get it running. And maybe it's something we do in Audionautic or as a special one-off episode of something.
That'd be fun. More of that.
J-Bells already says that would be fun. It's a computer program. That's why he wants us to try it. It's not a piece of hardware. I'm just kidding, J-Bell. I'm just kidding.
We'll see. So yeah, that's that. Eon Lake, are you down? Are you going to be using it with us?
I want to know how it performs. I really do, because I'm halfway between thinking, well, if you can cut out some of the latency that you get inside your system, then that would make a big difference. But then the other part of me is thinking latency is dictated by the speed of light,
Yeah. Well, it would be really interesting to test it out, because that would be
good, 3,000 miles, 3,500 miles between us. Well, it would be more because you're on the other coast, but it's got to take a certain amount of time. But if you remove everything that you can, is it close enough to actually be viable? I'd really want to know.
Well, we won't know unless we try. And it sounds like we've got 2 people in the chat, J-Bell and also FCC, wanting us to give it a try. So we'll look into that, see if we can get in the beta and give it a shot. There may be some sort of you can't publicly, I don't know, because it's beta, they may not let it be public. I don't know. I'm just saying we'll have to look into all that. But if we're able to, we'll definitely try and do it in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
The one thing though is like Survey Channel says, you need a pretty solid bandwidth, so that could be an issue.
I'll just move to Korea. It's fine.
Yeah, we'll see, but we'll try it. But yeah, Eon, like you have a very good point. I mean, there is some sort of like non-negotiable bit of latency, you would think. I mean, they could have some sort of AI thing trying to, like, I know there's with video games, they up-res games as you're playing them. Is it DLSS or something? So it like up-reses it to 4K with AI. So there's latency there, but it works. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Tinfoil hat time, if I may.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
We've had insanely fast internet for the entire of existence, and it just gets slowed down by internet companies in order for us to have tiers of speeds to pay more or less. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. I don't know, but we'd have to see.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to see. Moving swiftly on before we get sued. The notion of we have a little bit of a PSA as a final piece for today. A little bit of a PSA.
Surveys with you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. So less news, more PSA, and I'll put this straight in the chat for anyone listening, watching back, or on Spotify, or our new listeners.
Well, we'll put it in the description for those listening back.
Better,
and even on YouTube, it'll be in the description.
But this, I just caught Audio Damage. They have apparently a very what's the phrase? Not legendary, but they have a very decent distortion VST, which they've just made free because they've just made it into their legacy package, and that seems to be a pretty nice, decent distortion pedal. But I mean, you can get distortion VSTs, and distortion VSTs are distortion VSTs, but
whoa,
but themselves have an entire page dedicated to that of their legacy, and I just wanted to share this with people because it's free and downloadable, and we love free stuff on this show. And if you can see this, you have an entire list of VSTs which are completely free.
Wait, go back down. Go back down. Yeah. Rough Rider Pro Frequency Control Center says Rough Rider is very good. Ooh, multi-band compressor. Yeah. I love me those. Yeah.
You've got a phosphor additive synthesizer. You've got a drum machine by Tattoo, or a Tattoo drum machine. You've got a flanger. You've got delays. You've got filters. You've got pitch shifters. You've got reverbs. You've got bit crushers, subtractive synthesizers. So much, and it's all for free. So this is for anyone looking to get more into their arsenal and just play around with different ways and different VSTs. Go have at it, because why wouldn't you?
There's Curtis's PSA for the week. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. They seem quite cool. Yeah, I'm always looking. I still haven't found a compressor that I really like, so it's something for me.
Have you tried Presswork?
I haven't. No, I haven't tried Presswork. Is it good? You like it?
I wouldn't mention it if I didn't think it was good.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe just throw me a curveball. You never know.
Maybe I'm just seeing what you're gonna say. I love the stock Logic compressor though.
Okay, all right. Is that the same for you, Eon? Like the stock one in Ableton?
Yeah, I use it on almost everything.
Yeah, there we go.
All the time. I do use some other ones on buses and on the master channel maybe, but yeah, those SSL ones that our good friend Survey Channel pointed us at a sale for also work great. But yeah, I've got a few and some ones that are sort of clippers and saturators in one that sort of do different things as well, so you can sort of choose the right tool for the right job.
Yeah, and we got J-Bell says the stock Ableton and Reaper are good compressors. Do you use both J-Bell, Reaper, and Ableton? I think Survey Channel, you might use Reaper, right? I recall that's what you use. And Thomas, one of our patrons, hey Thomas, what's going on, man? He says the Ableton Glue comp is good. I've heard good things about that one actually. Yeah, very cool.
I used to.
So you got some research to do, Curtis.
Yeah, it looks like it. I used to work for a dude who swore blind that the glue compression Ableton was the worst plugin that you could ever get, because it artificially boosts the low end. I don't ever know how true that was. I don't. I use the glue compressor for sidechaining, but yeah, it is what it is.
I've set up a mid-side glue compressor for master channels so that I can sit on the center channel a little bit and control the peaks a bit without touching the edges, and it works pretty well. I haven't noticed anything about additional bass really. Also, there's a Drama multi-band compressor that I use a lot as well.
Yeah. I'm gonna just take in the edits for this week.
Soft tube Drama 1973 multi-band.
Let me put it back up. Sorry.
Yeah,
there you go.
It's brilliant.
I'm gonna take when I cut the shorts for this week, I'm gonna take your previous analysis of that, and I'm just gonna have that as a short because I think that might be the nerdiest comment of the week, and I love that.
That's the caption. Nerdiest comment of the week.
Yeah, just said with such confidence, and everyone listening and everyone watching knows exactly what you mean. And we are just this corner of nerds that know exactly what you mean. And we really
niche. What do you mean niche?
I mean, that's the point of Discord, right? We all go to Discord to talk about these things. I just want to throw in, because I mentioned it earlier, but I haven't seen anybody else mention it yet. UHE Presswork. That's the one. I love UHE Presswork. And I think it also has that side. You can have compression on just the sides or the middle and things like that. It's 130. Saying it's 130 euro, but I'm assuming it's probably, I got it on sale. Yeah, it's 130 US as well. Really cool. It's got some like distortion things you can throw in too. And we also have, Thomas also recommends the BX Townhouse comp. Never heard of that one, so we'll look into it.
What's today?
Oh, he says it's a cheap one as well. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, cheap and free. There we go. So yeah, that's that one.
That was almost a round robin in and of itself.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. We do love putting this news out. If there's anything that we've missed from the week, or is there anything that you guys listening back or watching back feel like we should be talking about, please let us know. Let us know in the Discord. It's a great way as a channel for ADSN where people can put things that we're talking about. And yeah, because we're just a bunch of dudes who like to look online at these nerdy stuff and then bring them to you. So there's always stuff that we miss. So please let us know.
And it's a safe space if you come out with nerdy stuff like that.
Yeah, Eon can ramble on about that. We love him for it, and we know what he's talking about. And we're like, oh yeah.
That's very much so. But more from Adam Mazzeri, Sunwarper. What's going on in the marketing minute for this week?
Yeah, so just share that video that I put in there, and we'll just play it, because I'd rather he say it than I have to reiterate it.
Really?
I would.
Well, I mean, Eon, you're welcome to guess what it is. I mean, hey.
So yeah,
TikTok.
Actually, this is good news for Instagram. So let's play this and then we'll talk about it. Can you just get the audio on? Yeah.
New, and that kind of tends to make people nervous, but I promise you'll like this one. Today, we're rolling out multiple links on Bio worldwide. So the way it works is you can go to your profile, hit edit profile, and then tap links. And you'll be able to add up to 5 links right there. You can actually add not only a URL, but a description that can show up as the name instead of the URL. Those will show up on your profile. The first one is the one that'll show up there, and they'll be able to quickly and easily access the other 4. And you can actually, when you're editing them, rearrange them to make sure that the one that you want to be on top is the one that shows up on your profile. Check it out.
So it's kind of like a link tree built into Instagram now. Kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, they've had it in stories for ages, and it's only just occurred to them to bring it out into the main feature.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just it's nice to have. I mean, it's a good thing to have. I just think then you can, let's say you make sample packs, you have a YouTube, you have these things, instead of sending someone to Linktree, which is another click, and then they have to click another thing. It's all right there.
Yeah, okay, totally. It's all about that direct click. It's all about that direct click. Does it go?
That's the way it works. I mean, if someone clicks one thing, they may not click the other. So if you can just send them exactly where you want them to go, or where you need it to go, you've got it. Yeah, I'm with Survey Channel. Finally, how about cutting out the plethora of garbage suggestions too? I know it's like every third thing is just a suggestion. Facebook's been like that for a while, but Instagram now is like that. And frequency control back on the compressor says it's on offer for $29 at the moment, down from $2.99. Which is that, FCC? Let us know.
It's curious to see, like it, the notion of I followed one meme page and now all of a sudden everything on my feed is memes. I regret doing anything, but
yeah,
I
or
mean,
you click on the wrong thing once and that's it. Oh, I heard you really like tortoises or something. Nothing against them, but I'm on here for music actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's nice that they brought their links. Like we found, especially when the promoting of our own stuff for the label and like with FCC, for example, with this new album, making it as direct as possible for the consumer so that it's easy and seamless, so that people don't get distracted, because you know there could be a turtle, as Eon Lake would say, or a tortoise over there, and all of a sudden we're on tortoises and we're not thinking about music. So that is nice. And 5 links as well. I don't know if I would have 5 websites to send people. Maybe my website, Audionautic, and maybe a Bandcamp.
If you want to be belligerent, you can put your link tree 5 times.
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, you could do your website if you have sample packs, YouTube, Bandcamp, Spotify. I mean, even if you don't like Spotify but you're on it, if most listeners do it, like I've shared before, where when I put like a poll on my Insta story, like, hey, which do you want to link to? It's like 80% Spotify. So you can have that. You can still have Bandcamp on top of it, so people see that first. I mean, it's making it easy to get to you. That's what we always talk about. Just the most easy, direct access, and there it is.
WWF for Save the Tortoises.
Oh yeah, Thomas. Also, you could have your playlist, like the Audionautic playlist, which the link is in the description. You can have your album. You can do any of that stuff. There's a lot you can do there, and I think it may seem like a small thing, and it should have been rolled out a long time ago. But this is a big step, I think, and a big change. And it's actually a pro user or pro creator change, which I feel like is rare. So I want to highlight that.
At the same time, it's pushing you towards the portal for this admin as well. One of the things I like about Linktree is it's one place where all your links are and everything points to that. Whereas now that they've finally decided to start including more of this, it's sort of pushing you back towards different places to keep it up to date. But
that's true. I mean, that's true. But like you have to wonder, it's just like making it more efficient for people. Like if you're trying to grow on Reels or something, now you have people that can.
Is always better. It is. Yeah. It's just no way around it.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody in the chat? What do you guys think? How do you feel about it? We've got a couple. Survey Channel says, wonder if they'll have analytics for the links used. That's a good question. He may have covered it. I did cut the video off before it ended. He may have. I can't remember, but I'll look into it and get back to you about it in the next episode, because that would be huge. Because Linktree, you do see how many times a link has been clicked. Now, I don't think with the free one you can see like in a duration. It just says overall. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool. I get what you're saying, Ian. Like, though, having the link tree is like you can just send everyone there, but you can still have your link tree on one of those 5 links. So that's what I'm planning to do, because there are things on Linktree that I wouldn't want just right there, but you still can send someone over there.
You could put a Linktree link inside your Linktree.
You could do. I mean, I have the Audionautic Linktree in the Sunwarper Linktree, which will now be in the Sunwarper Instagram links.
Wow, I just keep in that circle.
It's
forever. Just keep in a loop.
Crazy. It's an infinity loop. And in the Audionautic link tree, we have our link trees. So it just goes right back.
Just stay with us in our little corner of the internet where we nerd out and things like this. Isn't that wonderful? Like?
It's an endless circle, yeah.
It is, yeah. It's wonderful to have you here. Do people come here because they want to be here, or they're just trapped and can't?
Are they just lost in the circle of link tree links? Yeah, I don't know.
That's all right, guys. But we love having you here. So thank you very much indeed. So that's the marketing minute. That's always nice. And yeah, I echo what J Bell's saying. He's used a link tree because this is a feature missing on other platforms, and that is totally correct. So it works.
It'd be nice if these other I mean, I get what Eon like saying is the more separate ones you have, the more you have to keep up and stuff. But it would be nice if Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, you can't even put a link until you have 10,000 followers, which is just crazy. But it'd be nice if you could put several links. And I like that this one you can put the title so you can have a description. Like I keep saying it, but like if you have sample packs, you can put my sample packs, my music, my videos, or my tutorials, like this and that. So it's nice that you can have that bit of like cleanliness to it and description.
Makes sense, yeah. Nice to see. So yeah, what websites would people put as well? Let us know in the chat. And you can do those little comment things in Spotify. Let us know what website would you put in.
That's right. Yeah, the question for Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, we can put a question. We'll put. Let us know in there what you can imagine what websites you would put, because it sounds like Curtis isn't sure what to put. So let's help him out.
I'm just gonna put like Google images of tortoises. I'm gonna.
I thought you were gonna do 5 link trees.
Just or 5 link trees.
Curtis.
Link trees of link trees of link trees of link trees. Yeah. But that's interesting that you bring up the Spotify, and because we've noticed recently, as we said at the beginning of the show, that a lot of people, or a lot of new people, are coming to hear us as opposed to watch us through Spotify and through Apple Podcasts. So hi, lovely to have you here. We love you, and thank you ever so much for choosing to spend your time with us. That's really nice. So in the research and the analytics of the last couple of weeks, we've noticed that quite a few people are rather new to the music production game. They're sending out their first beats, and they're submitting their first stuff to Spotify, and that's awesome. So that's great. So I thought for the round robin for this week, we would come back to a classic debate, classic story.
Now, wait, before you say what the round robin is, for those new, what is the round robin?
Oh, even better, sir. Even better. I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here.
Yin and yang, man. Yin and yang.
So the round robin is our table discussion for the week. After we've got through the news and the glitzy glams and the links, this is where we just sit down and have a bit of a chat. And we kind of talk about the production game and where everyone's at and what people think. Because there are no right and wrongs when it comes to music production, but everyone's got their own little flavor of how it's done. And so that's kind of where we're coming from. So we take a debate, we take a topic, and we kind of throw it out into the webosphere, if that's even a word. The ether, yeah. And we just see what people say, because then in understanding other people's viewpoints and communicating where we're coming from, we can all grow together, which is kind of the unofficial mantra of Audionautic. Really.
Unofficial? I'm pretty sure it's the official. I think it's on the shirt on the back.
On the back.
Oh no, it's make it sound good, dude. That's right. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Whoa.
No. When we do the next ones, I wouldn't mind a little range of, together we grow and stuff like that. We have all these little unofficial mantras, and I'm sure if you go back into the archives, there's Eon Lake spitting truth and all these
there's a lot of rants.
There's a lot of putting that on a t-shirt might be a bit long, but ultimately there is gold in the nugget.
Cape made.
It could be a robe. We'll make a robe or something.
Can you imagine in the post-apocalyptic wasteland when someone unseals a scroll and it's just Eon Lake ranting
about Spotify? Yeah,
our previous
sacred text.
Sacred text, exactly. But yeah, so this is the round robin, and this week we're coming back to a classic debate, a classic topic. We're talking about mixing again, and we're talking mixing in headphones versus mixing in speakers or studio speakers, monitors, etc. Which is better? Pros and cons. What do we do? What's our practice? And why do we choose the methodology that we do? So yeah.
Real quick, when you say headphones, do you mean like studio headphones or AirPods or something?
Well, I mean that in its own right.
Or are you saying any and all?
I mean, we know that a lot of early mumble rap and early grime was actually produced on phones. So I mean, I am thinking about these like headphones, studio headphones versus studio speakers. That's kind of where we're going. But I mean, there's obviously room for debate. Again, there's no right or wrong in this scenario. But I'd like to hear where people are coming from when we mix our tracks, when we get into production, when we move away from the chaotic writing stage into the clinical notching phase of mixing. how are we doing it? Are we doing it in our cams or are we doing it in our monitors? I'm actually brandishing to my 2 monitors behind the screen, which
No, I
it's
thought you
hard
were
to-
just exclaiming
Yeah.
very
Jesus
emphatically.
Christ, superstar. Yeah. So yeah, where are we at? Eon Lake, you have a fairly fancy way of doing this. So maybe we should start with you as like the pinnacle of everything that we should do.
Fancy, yeah. Well, I use both. I was going to be stupid and edgy for a bit, but let's keep it real. I use both, but I do use some reference software that is calibrated to flatten the response of both these headphones, which I do use for tracking and mixing a lot, and for my studio. So I think for getting stereo images and so on, headphones are really useful. When you're not in a studio and you've only got near field, having anything else that you can listen to on that's different is helpful, because you can switch between, you can balance between and everything. Obviously, if you're going to use headphones, you really want to be using monitoring headphones rather than hi-fi headphones, because they're terribly colored. They'll mask a million things that you just won't hear. You need some ones that sound flat, which to most average Joes will sound horrible, but it allows you to hear everything that's going on, and the mixes that you do on those will transfer a lot better when you listen to it on other systems and when you do listen to it on hi-fi gear, once you've got things right. So yeah, I highly recommend any software that does calibrate headphones and speakers to flatten their response so that they sound natural, so that you can actually hear what's going on, work on a detail and produce something good. But I like to change things up. I like a bit of variety. Well, no matter what you do, and particularly if you use headphones, it's important not to tie your ears too much, especially if you're trying to mix. You need regular breaks and so on, and that's about it, I think, from me.
Makes sense. Makes sense in its own right. I think that brings up a whole nother question about things like tinnitus or tinnitus, which is probably a different discussion for a different day.
That's another round robin.
That's another round robin. Sunwolfer, where are you at?
I mean, I completely echo what Eon Lake is saying. I would further add too that I like to test on everything. Like, one of my biggest tests is seeing how it sounds on my phone or on my iPad or in the car. When I'm making the music, I almost always use monitors, just because I don't have super good headphones or anything that I would like trust. Sometimes I'll use it when I have the air conditioner on and hear this giant behemoth behind me. It's so noisy that I have to use these noise reducing headphones, and I hate the way it colors it, because it gets rid of almost all the high end. So like, I'll have the hi-hats up so that I can hear it in here. I take it off and I'm like, whoa, the hi-hat's just like the most dominating sound. So yeah, I mean, I would love to get like SonarWorks or something to kind of calibrate everything, but that's one of the benefits of using like reference tracks and seeing how those sound on all these different speakers. And then, yeah, I know, Curtis, you hate it, but some of us like our audio to be right. It's very helpful. And so I like to test like a reference track. How does it sound on this speaker? And then how does my sound on that speaker? And then how does it sound in the car? Because every speaker or anything is going to color it in a way. So you can, by using multiple, really get a reference of like where it actually is. If you can't do that balancing type of thing and stuff like that. And we got a couple people in the chat. Let us know your take if you haven't already. I'd be curious if anybody is like completely opposed to one or the other. Just out of curiosity, if FCC says I have 5 sets of speakers in the studio and headphones are good, I've started using real phones, which lets you select different types of virtual monitoring and headphone types. That's really interesting.
That's cool.
That's very cool. We'll have to check that out. Thanks for the recommendation. Let us know, chat, if anybody else uses that real phones. That's pretty cool. Thomas says, I tried SonarWorks, and to be honest, I think it is rubbish. Ooh, Jan, like, you got some...
everything for me. Absolutely.
Let's see. He also says, get used to your headphones or speakers. Use them a lot, and that's it. SonarWorks just makes your headphones and speakers sound different, which you should learn the sound of anyways. Interesting. Eon, like you can in a moment give your counterpoint if you would like. But one other thing, Survey Channel says, we got a lot of chat. Hold on. No reference tracks, cheap JVCs from CVS. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Interesting.
And Survey Channel, you only use just those speakers. Do you test it on anything? I know you said no reference tracks, but do you test your own tracks like on the, I guess, AirPods? But do they even have the wired Apple headphones anymore? I remember those. I hated those things. But do you test on any headphones? And Thomas, I think maybe feels a little bad for calling you out, Eon Lake, but he says sorry. And he says, of course, that's just his opinion. And yeah, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I kind of get what he means, that it is good to learn your own speakers, but I bet Eon Lake's going to say that you still need to kind of know the base of the original sound without the speakers, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I respectfully disagree. It changed. It was an absolute game changer for me. I mean, I trained in studios, and we knew where the bass trap was in the studio and all the rest of it. And I knew exactly what distance to listen to NS10s. I knew at what point the bass rolled off. I knew how the Westlake monitors sounded, and it just doesn't make any sense to me to say, okay, right, well, you're listening to something, and then you're making adjustment for the room that you're in and the way that it sounds. And that will tell you what it's really like versus just hearing something flat and actually being able to hear it properly. It's just, I think both have merit. I think, you should get used to your room, because I know that even over here in this corner, there's a bass trap. I know that, and I know that the imaging isn't perfect here. But at the same time, if my monitoring is heavily, and this probably goes away with the more expensive your monitors are and the better they are. But if it's heavily colored and it seriously clouds the low mids, I need to get rid of that so that I can hear what's going on. And it stopped my mixes sounding shit. Suddenly I listened and they sounded the same everywhere, rather than, they sound all right on that, but terrible on that. It's just, I think if you think about it, it stands to reason. Being able to hear something clearly and not having colored monitoring is a good idea.
I do want to say, I know, I think it's more than just a story, but I remember hearing that Skrillex, don't shoot the messenger or anything, but Skrillex mixed that, what was it, Scary Monsters, Nice Sprites or whatever on broken headphones. Yeah. So, does it really matter all that much? I don't know. And Survey Channel is defending his sonic honor after his last comment. He just needed to clarify. He said he's kidding about the cheap JVCs from CVS. But he also added that he uses PreSonus monitors and he has Audio-Technica. I'm not even going to list the name, but he has that one. Oh, there we go. Okay. They're Bros and headphones. Yeah. Yeah, no worries, Survey Channel. I think it would be cool if somebody makes like cool music like that on those cheap headphones or cheap speakers. It's like I was saying with the broken headphones of Skrillex or something. It's cool to see that. I mean, like you were saying about the different sounds and stuff, Burial, he uses samples like off of YouTube that are low bit rate and stuff like that for Untrue. So does it really matter all that much? I don't know. I also want to add that, like, I mean, we can argue and debate these things and talk what our favorite things are and stuff, but really it just matters if you get the music done and make it. And like Bendu says, he says, my studio is my living room. The sound is not good. Mix in headphones, Bayer Dynamic DT 880 Pro. My mixes are rubbish. Basically my sound now. I would disagree with that end part. Maybe that the sound is your sound, but it's not rubbish. It's awesome. And that's what I'm saying. Like, does it, like one person's rubbish is another person's awesome or something. So yeah. And FCC says good headphones, those Audio-Technicas. And we also have Survey Channel says for sure about the crappy speakers. Wouldn't hurt as a reference point. It does depend on the source and mix it how you want things to stand. So yeah, awesome stuff. We appreciate everyone giving their input and their studio. Curtis, what about you? You brought this to the table. Let's get your take on it.
Well, I mean, I love how alive the chat is, and part.
But that's not your take.
I know, but that's it. Like my take comes from it. Like I echo. What springs to mind is what Frequency Control Center said about having the cheapest, smallest set of speakers is a good bottom end reference. Now, I missed
that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mix a lot of marooned in a very nice, well treated studio at my old job, and then when I was in the room for doing Black and Blue with J-Bell, we were mixing on these tiny little speakers that were just consumer speakers, and the mix came out great. I think Thomas said it. There's been a lot of chat. I think Thomas said it's about knowing the sound that you want to create, and I think that's the most important thing. Like, I mix primarily in headphones, because I mix late at night and I have housemates, and I live in an area where you can't play music.
But you could
loud,
serenade them. They could all be serenaded by those lush guitar tones.
I mean, it's usually at this point, it's more like how saturated can I make the kick, that kind of thing. But yeah, and I like that intimacy. For me, I like the intimacy of having it all surrounding in my head, and it's there, and it's all up, and I'm all up in it, and there's no distraction, and all that stuff. I just read Survey Channel's comment.
Well, finish your thought though first. Hold on, I want to hear this. This is important.
So I like that, but obviously, as you know, or you might not know, I'm actually half deaf in my left ear. So like, my bass, when I send it to you for mastering some more, it's always over the top. So I have to kind of counteract.
I just have a Curtis preset that's like just a shelf. Just
and that's cool, So like, but I go through several stages. Recently, I've actually started mixing started like a preliminary mix on laptop speakers, just on the laptop speakers. I watched a couple of videos by Fred Again, if you know Fred Again. He does a lot of stuff like just on his MacBook, and he just does it and then he plays it. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting way. I'm currently working on a remix where I'm doing the same thing. Then I'll go into headphones to do like a proper, what I think is a final mix. Then I'll put it on the monitors, and I'll see what's going on in the monitors with the fresh face. And then I'll start to troubleshoot from there. So like, obviously you go through the processes of it, but ultimately, again, it comes back to knowing your sound and understanding that, I like it this way. I like a heavy bass. I do. I know that my bass is over the top, but I like it. I like a big, thick bass in what I'm doing, and so that's where I'm coming from. They're all right. If the answer is A or B, the answer is yes, C.
C and D.
C and D. But I think it's a process of all of them. I think it's, what are you trying? I think when we go into mixing, it comes back to what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to get out of it? If you have a reference track, and you're trying to emulate the sound of a reference track, for example, how are you doing that? If you're gonna do that reference track and you're listening to it on your iPhone speakers, for example, then that's your reference, and that's your reference speakers, and that's fine in its own right. I think it's about finding out what works for you and carving out your sound, and then running with that, and with the understanding that you are great and awesome at everything you do, and it's going to be great no matter how it turns out.
Yeah, I just had this image. That's all super right, but I just had this image of sending all of this gear into a interface and just putting it into the phone. Just making it like, just making an album just like that. Be like, it's done. There we go.
That's how a lot of mum.
No, I know, and I'm not gonna lie. The speakers. I think this is a 13 Pro or something. Like, I listen to music on my phone a lot when I'm walking or something like that, and the advancements in speaker in like each of the iPhones, it's changed drastically. Because I remember it was definitely above about 200 hertz or something, maybe a couple years ago. Because I remember I'd hear no low end, and then now I can actually hear the bass a little bit. It's still a bit muffled and stuff, but it's really interesting in that way. And but yeah, I just have this image, kind of like Survey Channel says, I want to mix in a huge metal room. I could just imagine just like being in a room with all this gear plugged into a phone and just like making it, like the funniness of just the contrast of having this gear that's like, some of it's expensive, some of it's cheap, but all of this gear that costs a lot, and going into like this small tiny speaker and just making a song. It just cracks me up. Thomas also says, and this is a good point to a degree, he says, I find it funny that people talk about good speakers and then don't care about the room, which is why I would say that you can make better mixes on good open cans versus expensive speakers in a bad room. I guess to Eon Lake's point, though, about SonarWorks, it kind of is supposed to offset that bad room or lack of treatment, correct, Eon Lake?
Yeah, because you measure it in your listening position.
Right, yeah. So that is just... it's
all right as long as you're in that position. There are a couple of things that it won't accommodate for, but I mean, if your speakers sound anything like as bad as mine, then,
Thomas also
There's a lot
says
you're
for
not hearing.
Curtis, he says, I must say I really like the way your album Maroon sounded. Yeah.
Ah,
It was all in the master. No, I'm just
It's on the
kidding.
master. Yeah. Saved it in post.
No,
Yeah.
I was blown away by that album sound, dude.
Appreciate
It
it.
was a
And I
Skiffle
didn't
album,
actually
so
have to
someone
cut.
mastered it.
I didn't actually have to cut much low end.
I've been learning recently.
Oh,
I've been
okay.
counteracting, using a lot more like spectrum image based stuff.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't always believe what you see, but,
No, but
it
it
is
helps.
very helpful. Yeah, definitely. Using,
But thank you very much, Thomas. I really appreciate that. That's cool to know. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, any more on the round robin for this week, or are we good?
I think that's it. Chad, if you have anything else you want to add, any more blows between Eon Lake and Thomas, let us know. I'm just kidding.
We're gonna put him in a ring and it's gonna fight out. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Lovely, lively round robin this week. That's awesome. It's lovely to hear. The chat has been so lively this week, and thank you for joining us. It's been awesome to have you here and hear what you're on about. And it's really cool, really nice. So thank you.
Yeah. I also am on the Spotify going to add a poll, because you can also do that. I'm going to put, because I want to see how many people put the C. I'm going to put A, headphones, B, speakers, C, all the above.
All the above, yeah. We'll do that.
So, hey, if you want to put your voice in, if you're watching live or if you're watching on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts after, head to the Spotify link in there. Once it's up, the podcast goes up on Saturdays due to YouTube's crazy, strange, long time of getting things processed, because we live stream on YouTube. But we'll have the vote, and we'll also have that question that I'm totally blanking on that Curtis brought up earlier. I'll have to listen back, I guess, and figure out what it was. But yeah, we appreciate you all hanging out. Curtis, what's up next for you? What do you got going on the rest of the week?
I'm going to go live in half an hour or so. That's immediately for the rest of the week. And then I've just found I've got some remixes to carry on with. That's my thing this week.
Nice.
I'm get them done. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. What about you?
I'm gonna make a video on the little pocket operator, and then I've got a video on stem separation coming out tomorrow. And then that comic started coming out that I soundtracked for. It's called The Eagle and the Snake. It's on Webtoons. I'll put a link in the description after this ends if anybody wants to read it. It's a really cool webtoon, very cool story, really great art, and hopefully good music. The first track is like a big synthwave heist track for this heist scene, very like kind of if the 70s heist music turned into like synthwave now. There's like, it was a lot of fun to make, and then it goes into some crazy weird territory upcoming. But yeah, that's it. Eon Lake, what do you have going on the rest of the week?
Nothing. I don't do things.
Oh, well, you got all these blinking lights behind you. You have to.
No, it's going to be more of the same. I'm going to carry on the same vein, messing around, making sounds, and doing a bit of live rehearsals.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to ask, did you take a break on getting the live stuff set up?
I did a bit, yeah. Just I like to shake things up a little bit. I don't like to do the same thing for more than a week.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
So around that moment, I've got the two setups. It's a very minimal live, and then there's the rest of the studio. So I'm kind of trying to bounce between them just to keep things fresh a bit.
That's cool. That's what.
Yeah. And real quick, we got a couple chats I want to go through. Thomas, I hope you don't feel offended by any of us or the opinions. We appreciate you being honest. We love the talk. We love the counterpoints. Yeah. We love all of that. So don't stop. If you agree, disagree, let us know. That's all. That's what matters. We just want to hear what everybody's opinions are, because like Curtis always says, together we grow. Bendu says, I aspire to having a good room for music someday. Well, I mean, it sounds great already, man. So don't worry about it. And Survey Channel says, great show. Guys, fun times. We appreciate you hanging out, Survey. FCC says, great show. Inspired, off to make some noises in the studio. Throw them in that reel to reel, man. I want to hear that reel to reel. And Thomas is doing something interesting. He says, actually, tonight I'm mixing a track where the vocals are recorded directly into the laptop mic. It is very lo-fi. It reminds me, someone was breaking down that Fred again, and they were saying that Fred again likes to record vocals into WhatsApp because it adds that bit of like lo-fi and compression to it. So yeah, and Thomas says, I love you all. Well, we love you too, Thomas. We appreciate you being here, of course. And yeah, we are live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. UTC, and that's 8 p.m. Curtis's time zone, because we had a little bit of a thing with Starstream where we were trying to figure out the time zones. But if you guys want to hang out with us, if you're watching this back, If you want to hang out with us live, 11 a.m. Pacific on Wednesdays. Otherwise, we'll see you on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that. But we appreciate you hanging out, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. We love you all. And yeah, can't wait till next week. Have a great week.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.